Hi there, and welcome to our biology video on osmosis and diffusion. We will firstly talk about the meanings of these two keywords and we will go over some exam questions. So, firstly, let's start off with diffusion. What is the meaning? So, basically, diffusion is the movement of molecules from an area of high concentration of the molecules to an area with a lower concentration. What that basically means is diffusion is where molecules, it can be particles as well, where there's lots of it, they're moving to an area where there's less of it. So I'll draw an image over here. This is the membrane. They can move through a membrane, and where there's lots of it, so on this side there's going to be lots of it, and where there's less of it over here. And one thing to remember is that diffusion is a passive process. And what I mean by that is there is no energy required to carry out diffusion, because diffusion is movement of molecules from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. There's no extra energy needed to carry out this process. So, where does diffusion happen? Diffusion can happen in plants and humans. In plants, it can happen in the leaves and in the roots as well. And in humans, it can happen in the alveoli. And this is where the gases diffuse into and out of the cell or the alveoli in humans. So these are very adapted to carry out diffusion. For example, they have a big surface area. So let's move on to the meaning of osmosis. Osmosis is basically a type of diffusion, but it's the diffusion of water. And where the water molecules are in a higher concentration to a region where they are in a lower concentration through a partially permeable membrane. What this word over here, two words over here mean is basically a membrane with small holes in it. With small holes. And osmosis is a passive process because it's moving from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. So it's a passive process as well. So things like active transport, they move against the concentration gradient, so they require energy, and it does this by respiration, but we'll look at this in a different video. So now let's look at some exam questions. Question 1a. Plants roots absorb water from the soil by osmosis. What is osmosis? So we've looked at this before. Osmosis is the diffusion of water. It's where the water molecules move from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration and through a partially permeable membrane. So your marks for this is worth 3 marks, so it's worth quite a lot. It would be movement of water from higher concentration to lower concentration, and it's the diffusion of water. It's the diffusion of water, and it's a passive process. That would get you your 3 marks. So let's move on to a different question. Gases diffuse between the leaf and the surrounding air. What is diffusion? So diffuse is worth 2 marks again. It's a lot. Diffusion is the movement of molecules from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. So higher concentration to lower. Higher concentration to lower. It's a passive process. And that would get you your 2 marks. For the before question, osmosis is the diffusion of water. It's the passive process, but you have to say it's through a partially permeable membrane as well. That would get you the full 3 marks. Partially permeable membrane. That will get you the full 3 marks for sure. So let's move on to our final 2 questions. Substances can move into and out of cells. How does oxygen move into and out of cells? Drawing around one answer is worth 1 mark. So look at these answers. The diffusion of gases, oh, I've given you the answer. The gases are diffused in. Digestion is nothing to do with diffusion. Moving of gases, it happens in the human body, and photosynthesis happens in just plants. So we know the answer is diffusion. How does water move into and out of cells? Draw a ring around one answer. Well, breathing happens in humans, plants don't breathe. And it's about water, so we know it's not, well, respiration happens in humans and not plants, so we know for a fact it's osmosis. This would get you 1 mark, and this would get you 1 mark. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked it, and one last thing, please subscribe and hit the like button.